Good morning. You are muted now. Hang on. I am muted now. I should not be muted. Good morning. Audio check. Audio check. You guys should be able to hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Good morning, all. Good morning, Lori. Welcome, everyone. Sorry to wait for confirmation there, but it actually says I'm muted, but it doesn't look like I am, so make sure. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Happy Friday. Today, what is the element today? I think I'd know this, right? It's not like I've experienced weeks before. Days of the week, right? Friday is what? What is Friday? Here it is. Here's the page. Friday is Venus, copper. Yeah, there you go. Happy Venus Copper Day. It's also a waxing moon quarter, and I think that would be cool if we paid attention to that more. If we actually knew what the moon did, when it did it, and why it did it. Man, I should have paid attention to what it looked like. I've been doing nothing but just stewing, and not really stewing in a bad way, but just the gears in the head are going at everything that's been going down. Got a few texts from Owen earlier. Man, that guy's been just a massive gravy train lately. Everything that you see that's happening right now. Well, actually, let me change that. Ooh. There is a tiny, minuscule part of life right now that is occurring somewhere, and the amount of fervor in that tiny portion of life is so mesmerizing that the undertones of our psychic ocean is focusing on it exclusively. And it's in a place called Minneapolis. And that place is drawing attention from everywhere. It is a Kaaba. It is actually I think it's a Qibla, right? It's the direction. The Kaaba is the stone. The Qibla is the direction of the stone. I'm pretty sure that's right. And America doesn't have its own Kaaba, its own black cube. Its own black cube that can be an absorbing astringent for followers to utilize the technology and drain their energy. Islam teaches that your frontal lobe gathers electricity, dirty electricity, over time. The static builds up from your body and collects in the top of your head, much like an antenna or the top of a building. There's more of a static charge higher up. And when you kneel to pray, you face Mecca. You guys probably know that, but you're actually facing the Kaaba. You're facing this black cube, this stone black building. And it's actually the building has a stone inside it. That stone was kissed by Allah. You're not actually worshiping the stone, but you're facing it. And by facing it and by kneeling, something happens when you place your forehead on the ground. When you place your forehead on the ground, you are grounding your frontal lobe, and that electricity is able to escape. And because you are aiming it at the Kaaba, you are completing a circuit over the entire earth. In fact, Mecca, the city itself, has a phi ratio to, or they believe it has a phi ratio to the shape of the world, right? So if your aperture is a globe earther, you're going to see a congruence of phi ratio where the city of Mecca is as far as distance from poles. Additionally, inside the city of Mecca, you'll find that exact same phi ratio where the Kaaba is. The Qibla, the direction of that stone, is meant to create a solar cell, much like a sunflower. All of the sunflower knows its center, right? It understands where its center is. It knows that because you see as the sunflower blooms, its seeds grow, they spiral out, right? There's like a ratio where like every time it turns, it drops a seed like 135 degrees or something. It's a slow spinning. That spinning is counterclockwise. In German lore, it's called the, I love the word, Wunderschnitt. I think that's how it's pronounced, Wunderschnitt, but it's a type of magic. It's a counterclockwise magic, which is meant to resonate in the same way that that our world has. When a slave particle, what we call an electron, is spinning, we see a counterclockwise spin to it. When you go around the Kaaba, you are spinning counterclockwise. In fact, you walk around the Kaaba 7 times. And each of those 7 times, you maybe, depends on how you circumnavigate the Kaaba. There's actually a special word for it. But as you go around that Kaaba 7 times, it is a meditation. It is your mantra. The pilgrimage to that spot is a living transit of energy. It's a circuit. It's a human circuit walked on with feet. Your feet are touching the ground. You're barefoot. You're moving around, and you are moving the circuit. You're closing that circuit. And some people touch the Kaaba. They want to touch that black stone. That black stone is basalt, and I'm hoping that if my good friend Benjamin joins me, he can tell me more about that substance, because I don't know jack. Hey, look in there. He's waiting for there, and so we're gonna get him in there really soon. I see him in the thing there, but this procedure, Mecca, the Kaaba, the stone itself, is a circuit. It's an electrical circuit, and everyone pointing into Mecca at the same time of day and transcribing their energy into it is an immense machine. It is a technology of belief, and as more people do it, that motor grows larger and larger and larger. And because of that, I want you to look at that Kaaba as a wheel, right? It's actually the way you're seeing it, yeah, counterclockwise. It's a wheel. That wheel gives everyone something to sink their foot into. It gives them pedals to ride that wheel around. And so all of the devotees who go on their Hajj, right, their Mecca, their pilgrimage to that, they are pouring their energy into the central circuit, and that circuit is reaffirmed by everyone else. America doesn't have a Kaaba. We have an obelisk. It's not a black stone, it's a white stone. And it needs the same kind of Qibla. It needs people to traverse around it in the Wunderschnitt and give it power. You guys have seen this happen. You will see an ox that is pushing a wheel around, and that wheel is grinding flour, right? It's grinding wheat to make flour. Or they decide to give the ox a break, and they build it near a stream, and they work the water that creates the water wheel. Now you have a mill. And what happens when you build a mill in the middle of nowhere? A town magically appears around it. It appears like a fungus. It appears like a lichen on a rock that has just the right temperature, just the right everything else to it. And ladybugs show up. There's dragonflies having sex as they're flying. There's all kinds of magic starts to build itself around when the conditions are right and when just the right spell is set. And that condition near the water is a flow, right? The water is pulling electricity past it. It's always flowing. It's pulling electricity. You have a flume. Just as you have a flume underneath the ocean, you have a flume in the stream. There's always power around the Qibla. There's always power around a central wheel, a spoke, the North Pole, the swastika, the Big Dipper, the giant ladle, the direction to Mount Meru. The spewing of Aurora Borealis, right, comes from the center of the swastika. And whether you hate the swastika and fear it, or whether you embrace it and love it, you are connected to it. You give it your attention, and you worship these things with your time. I would like to suggest that all of you participate in worship with your attention and time. All the time that you spend is a form of worship. And I know that you're not comfortable admitting that or saying that, or you want to specify, no, my God is this, my deity is this, my Lord is this. And I'm not here to tell you that that's wrong. I'm here to inform you that when you were outside your place of worship, you were still worshiping. The things that you touch with your fingers, the people you choose to call on the phone, the food you choose to serve yourself, your family, or your dog, the amount of water you give your plants, the time you might give someone like me in the morning. All of these are sacrifices that you are making with your time, with your essence, with your attention, with your identity. It's literally your identity. Because what we are is verb. All of us are verb. We are not the sand. We are the amount of sand that's left, right? We are a thread that is only connected through time itself. Without time, there is no us, because us is a perpetuation of memory petrified over time that seems to keep persisting. That's basically who and what we are. So our essence is all we can truly give of ourselves. And what we give is, in fact, a form of worship. And that's why it's the truth when I tell you that we worship narrative by listening. All it takes is listening. That's all it takes. And I would like for you to look at Minneapolis as a Kaaba, a flaming Kaaba. And it is inviting you to join. And as above, so below, as Mecca is the center And as inside of Mecca, the center of the city itself is their Kaaba. It is the navel of the world in their view. So too is American racism, planting a flag in Minneapolis and telling you this is the center of the world. And a flaming AutoZone and a melting Target is your Qibla. And if you could get down on your knees and touch your forehead to the ground and aim it at Minneapolis, others would see that and they would feel that energy go with it. And soon we will all meet at that bonfire and we can have another party about how racist we are, or how violent we are, or how corrupt we are, or how untrustworthy we are. And we can all, just regardless of what side we're on, regardless of what names we call each other, we can all agree on one thing. A, man cannot be trusted because he's either too racist or too violent or too reactionary. B, we need more government to fix the government that we have now and to fix the people that are causing all these problems. Because it's not government that's the problem. It's not media that's the problem. It's not a wizard that's pointing you at a Kaaba that's the problem. It's you. And when you have enough clout to truly analyze yourself, you can see past that through the veil, right? Through aperture, the things we've been working at. You can see past that. Not only do you see a narrative, that's one thing to see a narrative. I applaud you for making it to the spot where you understand it's a narrative. But my friends, you would not be listening here in this cafe if that's the extent of your aperture. No, because you would have already said that I'm Lucifer or I'm a dirty whatever, or I don't understand this. You would have already dismissed me, but you're still here because your aperture is even wider than the narrative, which means you can see this point that we worship what we give our attention to. And that's not sacrilegious. It's actually the opposite. We're actually going to admit to ourselves that this cloak that we wear, that we think we only don on Sundays when we go in to worship for an hour, is actually a cloak that we wear 24/7. It's the way we talk to our wife. It's the way we don't talk to our wife. It's the way we respond to everything around us. And what scares us is not sovereignty. It's not. It's not. All of us want sovereignty. All of us want to be able to stand tall at the top of the mountain, put our hands on our hips and say, I am king of this decision. I am king of this moment. All of us want that. All of us do. All of us have those moments. We wouldn't be man without it. We would be tethered in some way to someone else. That's not what we fear is sovereignty. And it requires this aperture to see it, because what we fear is vigilance. I believe that what we fear collectively is our inability to stay at our post and remain on the wall as long as it takes. And what dulls that is the comforts of inside world, of fluorescent world. That's what dulls that, and that's what makes it so hard. We can smell the rye bread. We can smell the warmth from the fire. We can smell how relaxing it would be to join Babylon. And requiring that kind of vigilance is hard unless it's forced on you. Unless it's forced on you, there's only a few of us that are going to be able to take it. And that's why what's happening now is a force is coming. Things are being forced on you. The pillars of scapegoat and golden child, believe it or not, in American racism, police officers are scapegoats. And black children with Skittles are golden childs. And that probably sounds back-asswards to you. It probably does. It probably sounds so backwards you cannot even handle it. But it's true. We blame our fear of vigilance on racism. And we can only do that if we have an authority figure that's corrupting us to such a degree that we're not able to save ourselves. And this is a fear of vigilance. And because of this fear, humanity is not able to reach their full potential. But there are people that want humanity to reach its full potential. It's insane, but they do. There are merry pranksters out there that are doing things. They're exposing, they're sacrificing towers. They're sacrificing building 7s. They're showing the world for what it truly is in the light of the corona. They're giving you signs of death. They're planting virtual reality escape. They're talking about comets. And they're calling the Hermit this card. And these are yellow vests. And the yellow vests are following a predetermined path set by a hermit who's completely fine with destroying the world as long as it leads people to a place where they claim they do not want to go. No, stop. No TTIP. No FFP. No ET. Whatever, right? These are all people saying stop as they move forward. And this is the power of prophecy. If you write down that, hey man, God said you were going to get $1, and then you place $1 on their desk, they're going to be like, there's a good chance that they're going to be like, holy shit, I was supposed to do this. All this was preordained. If I wanted to, I could have made this stream about Minneapolis, and I could have shown you all the bullshit in reference to this cop, who he was, what he's connected to, who started the riot, who broke the window glass first, right? Whose security guard was actually working here, who was wearing a red MAGA hat, who wasn't, which photograph was staged, why was his badge crooked, why does his license plate say police, how come his partner is Asian. I could have just frickin' streamed it all day long. We could have squirted about this psyop, and we could have felt good about it. We could have felt good about it as long as we were making fun of it as a narrative. We could have felt good about it, and we could have stayed in that place. And I'm not even saying that you shouldn't go there, but I am suggesting it's kind of like worship. I am suggesting that. We worship narrative by listening. Now, I'm really excited to get Benjamin in here, and I don't even mean to take away from his time, but I want him to be able just to frickin' run free. And so that, because of that, I just have to do one more quick thing. Ladies and gentlemen, if American racism was real, Jussie Smollett would not have to have faked a lynching. Charlottesville would not have had to have staged a riot. White cops would not be tolerating Asian partners. People would be proud to be called racist. If American racism is real, that would mean that racism is accepted, which means it would be a prideful thing to be called racist. Okay? Additionally, America would not, if American racism was real, the people would not have sent 2 black men to the White House as POTUS and FLOTUS. And they certainly would not have re-elected those same black men as POTUS and FLOTUS again. It's just, it's not possible. And I want to remind you, this is a mission accomplished for big government. This is a mission accomplished for yellow vests. And these yellow vests are a uniform that shows you a working crew. A crew that's coming to a job site. That's their uniform. This is a mission accomplished, the same way Charlottesville was. This is a machine that believes on your belief and our willingness to just take it at face value that everything we're seeing here is true. And if it wasn't for this mechanism of media, if it wasn't for this mechanism of racism, listen, this is important. If it wasn't for those 2 things, we would not have the ability to offload our electrical power. We would not be able to short our power out and go, I don't want this power. I do not want to be vigilant. I do want to be sovereign on July 4th, but on July 5th, I don't want to be vigilant, man. I don't want to be in charge of my airspace. I don't want to be in charge of my environment. I don't want to be in charge of my neighborhood. I don't want to be in charge of my rivers. I don't want to be in charge of my kids' education. I don't want to be in charge of my medicine. I don't want to be in charge of my own research. It's not because I don't want to be sovereign. It's because I fear vigilance. It just seems too painful to me because I'm comparing it to this pleather couch and this giant fucking TV, right? These yellow vests that's coming, all of this stuff that's happening is a gift of ball. And it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. You're gonna feel the teeth of that. But I've always said that best apocalypse ever doesn't mean easy. It means that the most amount of good possible is going to be coming out of this situation. With that, I'm really hoping that I can bring you... oh, wait. He's gone now. Oh, there he is. Wait, he's coming back. With that, I'd like to bring you guys Benjamin Balderson. Ben, you there? Oh, wait, I think it's muted so he can't hear me talk to you this way. You there? Wait, he's trying again. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. We're getting there. It's getting there. It's getting there. I keep admitting him, and it keeps kicking him out. Okay, hang on a second, guys. I'm going to end Zoom. And I'm going to tell... oh, I didn't mean to hit update. I'm going to tell Benjamin to please FaceTime me. That'll be my next trick here. We'll see if that gets him in there. Okay, while we're waiting for Ben. Yeah, exactly. Doo-doo. Jeopardy music. I'm thinking that Ben wanted to talk about resurrection. Okay, cool. I'm going to hit accept. Hey, buddy. Hang on a second. Let me. I don't know if people can hear you yet, so hang on. Let me just let me go down here and see if I can do this. And then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to look for FaceTime. There's something called FaceTime. Then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to turn this off. And then that should be working, but it's not. It's because it's off screen. Oh, come on. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not going to work. Got to do it again. Hang on a second. It's getting there. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Awesome, man.
Finally feeling better from my finger.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, hopefully. Let me see if I can get you back on, because I don't know if people can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with Zoom. I'm like, I don't think James even knows I'm in here. I'm just going to go in and listen to the YouTube.
Yeah, I saw you in there, but I was on a roll, too, and when I get on rolls like that. Okay, I'm getting
I wanted to hear it.
Okay, let me make sure. You guys should have sound. Tell me you get sound. Tell me you can hear Ben.
Check. 1, 2, check.
People are telling me they can't, so I'm going to wait for someone to say it's very quiet. Audio is very low. Okay. Okay. Dang it. Dang it, dang it, dang it. I don't know if I have an audio control on that one. Oh, man. That sucks. Okay. I can't get sound up any higher than this. Dang it, man. This is man. Sorry, Ben. It's not going to work. They can't hear either one of us right now.
If nobody can hear, then
yep.
There's no point.
All right, buddy.
Although this would be the time to say something stupid, I guess.
Yeah, it's not working. Hey, let me let you go. I'll tell everybody what's going on, and we'll catch up. Okay.
All right.
Sorry, Ben. Thank you. Darn it. Guys, I'm going to have to learn how to practice on FaceTime. You should be able to hear me now. You guys should be able to hear me now. Yeah, you can hear. It's probably up good now, right? Okay. Man, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, it should be good now. So now I'm just doing nothing on the show. I get lost in the chat like this. Yeah, I could try Zoom again. I could, but I don't know. I don't know. It'll take me a while to figure out how to get him another participants. Yeah, I got to figure out how to send another invite because I don't know why that one didn't work. But end meeting for all. It's not even letting me do that right now. Later, new meeting. No. I don't have the intelligence right now to integrate and bring Ben in and keep the show going at the same time. Sorry, guys. I just don't. I don't have the ability to do that. That is my gift of ball. You're very right. You're very right. There's a lot about the resurrection, and I'm pretty sure I haven't actually had a chance to talk to Ben in depth, but I'm pretty sure that's what he wanted to talk about. And it's weird that it didn't work because as this whole thing was brewing, I was actually more kind of getting lost on this whole racism myth. and what was happening anyway. And I knew that that was going to step on Benjamin's time too. So maybe this is all for the best right now, with the exception of the fact that I know that Ben had to actually travel somewhere to to set this up. So and sorry about that, Benjamin. We will definitely get you back if you will join us. I want to remind everybody that at Charlottesville, they set up a police gauntlet in the middle of the day, and they had brought in a large amount of tiki torches. I encourage each of you to go to Lowe's and see if you can buy, Lowe's or Home Depot, see if you can purchase more than 30 tiki torches. Because at Charlottesville, there were hundreds. And it was billed as a spontaneous protest. Yet somehow everyone had the same tiki torch, but more importantly, everyone was chanting the same thing. Not only was everyone chanting the same thing, but it was actually mischaracterized on the bottom of the screen. A certain word was placed instead of what people were actually saying. You could hear the audio. But the news wanted to make sure that there was a sentence placed there too. And it suggested that this was anti-Semitic, in fact. And it was such a terrible psyop in means of just its effectiveness. It really blew up in their face, in my opinion. But I don't have the same aperture as most everyone else. I think most America is going to be a herd mentality, and all they're going to hear is what I told you earlier about in Minneapolis. People can't be trusted. Cops are bad. We need more government to fix both. Mission accomplished. It's guys, even the tragic death was reported as vehicular homicide, and that's actually not what happened. That's not what happened at all. This thing was rated as a Nazi gathering. And if you look at the footage, this is the Nazi flag you're going to find. It's the same Nazi flag by the same guy. And I ask you, I'm going to ask you to put on your compassion helmet right now, just for a sec, please. Put on your compassion helmet and imagine what this guy was doing the night before he decided to come down and protest the fact that there were black people alive. What was he doing a week before? What was he doing a month before? And I just ask you, does this flag look like it was hanging over a fireplace or on his wall? Does this flag look like it's been venerated in ceremonies? Does this look like the flag of a race squirter who's got a temple set up in his basement where he's got all his Nazi propaganda gear? Guys, look at the flag. I'm trying not to say it. Look at the flag. Do you see all the creases in the flag? Does your aperture see all the creases? What do the creases tell you? What do all these creases in this flag tell you? Look how many there are. Thank you, Bright-Eyed Bear. Give that man a wrench. It looks brand new. It looks brand new. It's just out of the bag, says Bren. Newly unfolded. You're right. So it wasn't hanging last night, was it? Was it? It wasn't hanging on a wall. It wasn't hanging on a wall a week ago. This came from China 3 days ago? Right? Let's guess. Right? This was pulled out of a shrink wrap bag from China 3 days ago? Maybe? Maybe a week, right? Maybe a week. Look at his cargo pants. Look at how his shirt's tucked in. Look at everything about him. Does he look passionate? Look at his electrical field. Does this man look evacuated, or does he look impassioned? Right? Put your compassion into him. Take your adrenals, use them as an antenna, and place yourself in his body, and just be him for a sec. I know it's like, well, wait, it's gross. Look at his flagpole. Is his flagpole decorative at all, or is that just a piece of PVC pipe? Is this how you show pride? Where's the white pride in this picture? You guys know that this video is going to go down, right? I should have been hitting record. This video will not be here. Where is the white pride in this? Can someone tell me? Guys, if you go through all the footage of Charlotte, I did. This is the only Nazi flag you see. But if you go through the media footage, it's shown over and over and over again. And there's close-ups and then zooms and then close-ups and then zooms. Because they don't want to show the same guy's face. Yeah, he's got a dull electrical field, right? His ancestor field has creases in it. His task field has no posture. His casual field is showing. All this is casual to him. This is a gig. His egoic field is muted. He has zero emotional field. Right? Does your aperture see the creases? Or does your aperture see we need more government right now? This is the best apocalypse ever. And we have work to do. All of us have work to do. And some of us are working up here with the hermit. And some of us are working down here with the yellow vest. There are Ewoks in the trees, right, that have aligned with Chewbacca's of the forest, that have remembered that they are more than Sasquatch, that they are giant. And there are people that are still on the Death Star, but are figuring it out. And each of them has their own aperture. And we are all being led, whether we want to or not. And I want to remind you guys, I'm sorry I don't have it pulled up, but I would like to remind you guys that in I Pet Goat 2, as the Notre Dame temple is falling, there is a hand of God that is reaching down from the sky that is setting up these pieces. It is a hidden hand from God. And I regret ever telling you guys my physical cosmology, because now that I understand aperture, I realize it's really none of your business. And I say that because all it would do is give you reason to reject an idea I have because you saw what my cosmology was. And it's not required, because each of us have our own aperture. That's the outside lens. You can twist your aperture down so far that you see racism. You can do that. You can twist your aperture so far down that we need big government, we need racism, we live on a ball, there's no such thing as God. People in white lab coats are awesome. And there's such a thing as essential workers. You can reduce yourself to that aperture, or you can open it all the way up and see your cosmology as you want to see it. See through not just the Mecca, not just the Kaaba being placed in different cities inside the American psyche. But you can adjust your aperture so much that you would even understand that we worship narrative by listening to it. No decision is right or wrong. Like, no decision is better or worse than the other. And that's been a fault of mine. I've given that a judgment that in the past of saying, no, you've got the wrong look at it. You don't have the wrong look at it. If you want to feel that racism is real, someone has provided you an oasis for your belief to come rest. It can rest in that oasis. And you can worship American racism in this oasis. And that's what Donald Trump is. That's what all politicians are. I think Owen really has nailed it in the way he's been characterizing this. The voting itself, okay, he doesn't say these words, but I think he would agree. The voting itself is an offering. And it doesn't matter what you give at the collection plate. Is it a quarter? Is it a Canadian quarter? Is it a German quarter? Is it a check? Is it a money order? It doesn't matter. What matters is that your worship that you're giving it. What matters is the attention that we're giving it. We're sacrificing our time to understanding the nuance of it, of the AutoZone and the Target and all the other factors that come into play. And it's the reason why it's there is not because government's evil. It's because there are belief camels wandering through the desert that are looking for an oasis called American racism. And thank goodness with Charlotte, those camels, they didn't get a lot of water there. It was fantastic to watch. It was beautiful. It was so great to watch how most people rejected that. And I think that's what's happening here. And in Europe with the yellow vest, those people didn't do as well. The yellow vest is people not having enough understanding that we worship the narrative by listening. It's a tough lesson, because the more you adopt government, the harder it's going to be to step out of that synagogue. It's going to be that much harder to turn the Qibla into your family. To say the center, my Kaaba, is my family, is my roots, is my land, is whatever that is for you, right? Is my God, my relationship with God, right? On this rock, right, we will build this church. It's all this is the same technology of belief, isn't it? All of it. We require stone and bone. Your beliefs can be sent into stone or bone. Or both, whatever. It's going to be very profitable to talk about racism for a while as this goes down, good or bad, right? Worse or better. I've maintained that racism is actually prejudicial energy, and that prejudice is actually good. The prejudice is you yourself making a choice. You can choose a lane in traffic. You can choose a pair of socks. That is your prejudice. And there is an oasis of people that fear their own sovereignty that would like for it to be expensive for them to exercise their own prejudice. And so those people have found oasis inside of persecution about their own prejudice when it comes to the choices they make. So they're told, well, you're evil because of your language, or you're evil because of your whiteness, you're evil because of your genitals, you're evil because of your xenophobia, You're evil because of your privilege. You're evil because of your choices, your prejudice. And it's a systematic assault. It's a vaccine. Okay? It's germ theory. American racism is germ theory. What is germ theory? The poison is inside you. What is terrain theory? The poison is outside you. What is American racism? The poison is inside you. Your prejudice is the problem. Therefore, you should make less choices. You should look to others to help you make that choice. Because you cannot be trusted, right? Because you're too racist, xenophobic, sinful, blah, blah, blah. This is the blueprint of mind control. I wrote a book about it called Blueprint of Mind Control. 3 simple steps, whether it's sin, religion, academia, science, psychology, narcissism, sex, music, business. It's always the same. Step 1, convince target they're broken. You are racist. Step 2, victim is unable to see the problem themselves. They need outside help. You are too racist to see how racist you are. Step 3, offer constricted salvation through a central monopoly. If you listen to the black gay chick in the wheelchair as she has a tirade and do whatever she says and apologize to her, you will be considered a little less racist. And that's all it takes, because you will be less racist than everyone else around you. And therefore, you should not make prejudice. What does that mean, you should not make prejudice? You just don't make choices, that's all. Just don't make choices. Wait until the black girl in the wheelchair tells you, the black gay girl in the wheelchair tells you what choice to make. That's germ theory. That's vaccines, right? The vaccine is you got to listen to the Evergreen Squad, right? Remember that duo from Evergreen, the squad. It was like basically it was the the Milk, the Dudes, the Clockwork Orange. It was American Clockwork Orange, basically. This band of of the merry privileged, led by one of them in a wheelchair. It was basically just wandering around, just admonishing people. It reminded me of the Salem witch trial, where there's like 13-year-old girls that are wandering around pointing their fingers at people, going, "It was him. It was him. No, it was him. It was him and her and her." And because some of us did not want as much sovereignty or responsibility, it created an oasis for that. And there's always been an oasis for that. That's why Al Gore was able to capitalize on recycling, because there was an oasis for how dirty you are in the environment. That's why that worked. And that's why right now, all of us line up to feel good as we take our bottles into recycling. And it requires like 4 times as much energy to turn glass back into sand. Meanwhile, we're living in a land surrounded by sand. We have so much sand. It is ridiculous how much sand we have. But we are going to burn as many carbon fuel points, or whatever you want to call it, as we can, so that we can convince each other that we're not that dirty. You do know that every single recycling element that happens is a net loss for the environment, except for one, right? You do know that, right? It's true. Look into it. I was on planning board here in my town. I saw what we did. We made everyone sort it. We made different trucks come and pick up different stuff, and they dump it all in the same hole. There's only one form of recycling that works, and that's metal. And don't say aluminum, because it's actually gotten a lot harder, because they made aluminum thinner, and that painting, that coating that they use, Requires a shitload of energy to get that paint off. But we feel better. This has nothing to do with recycling. This has to do with an oasis in the desert where camels who are thirsty can park and drink from the fountain of I'm a dirty carbon footprinter. Just as there's a flaming AutoZone in Minneapolis where people can melt marshmallows and enjoy the congruence that American racism is alive and well. Two black men we sent to the White House. 2 of them. Twice. But it's not good enough. Until Trump deputizes every black person in America, that would be the only way that the cops could not be racist for certain camels. And even then, they would find something else to drink. They would find a different oasis to go to. Anything that's subterraneanly doing something important. Offloading their power. Offloading their power. Offloading their power. I can't handle this sovereignty. I'm going to squirt it into this bonfire, right? I can't handle this responsibility of being vigilant. I'm going to squirt it into this story that we're this or they're that. So we're constantly offloading our power because we don't want the responsibility of vigilance. And what happens when you get possessed, and you do get possessed? I would like for all of us to conduct an exercise right now. I would like each of us to imagine what it looks like to watch ourselves when we are inside a cell phone. Picture what you look like from across the room when you're doing this. Right? Here's a text from Benjamin. You know I'm in the room, right? Like as I'm reading this, as I'm having a chat or as I'm watching a video, what do I look like when I'm watching this? You know, see if I can do it. Right? You get it. I'm possessed. But it's not just possessed. It's not. I am worshiping. I am sacrificing. I am sacrificing to a black stone. And where does this black stone point? I'll tell you where it points. It points to the Qibla, my wireless router right back there. And where does that Qibla point? It points to one of 3 Kaabas, right? It points to your social media site. It points to your mail. It points to wherever it goes, right? It points to a Kaaba. And you give your reverence to it. You do. You do. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying shame on you. This isn't me going, you need to come drink from the oasis of how dare you. No, that's not what this is about. This is about finding prana. I just showed you where the largest stash of prana is ever. It's burning in Minneapolis right now. It's burning. Rubber tires are burning in Minneapolis, and that smell is prana. A bonfire of prana. And it's gorgeous because we're learning from it. That's what makes it so freaking gorgeous. So racism is germ theory. And what you see wandering around the streets is, if you're going to go back and watch this stuff, you're watching exosomes pretending to be viruses that are helping to spread another psyop to create another oasis. It's like a music festival. If there are people out there called the Insane Clown Posse, and they put makeup on their face and they gather in a spot. And I ask you, do they do that because Insane Cloud Posse exists? Or does Insane Cloud Posse exist because there are people willing to do that? What is a boy band? What is Britney Spears? Right? The sovereign man knows what those two things are. It is a mirage that was created by a desire. How many camels do you know that are wandering through the desert and are having visions of not water, not rest, not shade, but trains, a train set? You don't have a mirage about a train set. You don't have a mirage about a giant teddy bear. You don't have a mirage about anything that doesn't directly concern you. But if you want something, if you've been told that something could be easier, if you have a lack, if you've evacuated yourself, you will look for a mirage, and there will be someone there willing to burn down an AutoZone to get it for you. And this is how we grow. It's freaking fantastic. You know how we don't grow? Is by not having anything like this happen. We need to find these mirages. We need to have vigilance for them, and we need to make them expensive. We are already doing that, guys. We're already doing that. We're doing it right now, right? We did it at Charlottesville. More and more of us are doing it every day. We're doing a good job. We're doing a good job. I am proud of you. Where's my finger? I am proud of you. You're doing good. I realize I'm saying that as there's a swastika on the screen. I'm sure that could be used against me. Best apocalypse ever. And I don't think the Yellow Vests truly understand what they're doing. But if they did, none of this would be happening anyway, would it? Because we wouldn't be living in the world that we currently have now. It would be different than that. I'm going to agree with that statement, Nikola Tesla, and add you as a moderator. I do think that you were right about that. I'm not going to say his name, but I agree with you. I think I'm going to end the show here, guys. I want to thank you for joining me. Sorry about leading you on. I feel like I told you I was going to bring you this magnificent talk with Benjamin, and I let you down. I hope that that you will find that actually it will be better, because when we talk next, I wouldn't have to have filled in all this stuff about racism. We wouldn't have to be talking about all these things. If I didn't mention it about racism, there's an electrical lesson. I should have actually said this. There's an electrical lesson with racism. When you are having a strife with someone, let's say that you live in... Actually, we don't have to do that. If you have a strife with someone and you are arguing and they say something that hurts you, that you found a hole in your egoic field, right? You found this hole, and this hole you discovered because someone said something that hurt you. It cut all the way down to you emotionally. It was able to get all the way through to you emotionally. It scared you because it got all the way down to emotional. And you were just like, damn, I didn't think that I was that vulnerable. Your first inclination is going to be to protect yourself. And in order to protect yourself, you're going to have to move away from the danger. Okay, because you have a breach that goes all the way to level 3. It cut through your ancestor field, that's your God field, your task field, your casual field, your egoic field, your emotional field. It almost insulted you sexually. That's why sexual insults are so cutting, guys, because it reaches all the way, it tries to reach all the way through to, that's why when someone says, well, you're just negative, they're attacking your elemental field, right? Think about it. You're a heathen, there's your ancestor field attack, right? You're not doing that right. There's a task field attack, right? You're just stupid. There's your casual field attack. The way you stand is stupid. You look dumb in that hat, right? Your uniform. That's a casual field attack. Your egoic attack. You need to check your ego, brah. That means you need to let your fucking ego down so I can piss inside your system, right? And there's emotional field. Well, you're just, you're gay, or that idea is gay, right? You're buzzing each other on these fields. Sexual, you're a homo, right? Or you're negative. Do you see how all those are different attacks? Okay, when you get attacked, when someone attacks you, you want to defend yourself. It's quite natural. One of the ways you defend yourself, if someone is flinging a rock tied to a string and they're flinging it around and you get hit, you are going to back away. You're going to create a distance between you and this other person. Your prana cannot move your body. It needs you, your neocortex, to decide to move it. So your prana has to come up with other tricks, okay? So what does your prana do? It starts to build distance between you and the other person. How you build distance is you start to look at how you're not the same. You will look at characteristics within yourself that do not match that other person, and you will bring those to the surface, and you will worship them. You will give them attention, is what I mean. You will bring them to the surface, and you will declare them as valid in this moment. And so you will say, if someone tells you your idea is dumb, you will say, well, you're dumb. You're energetically, what you're doing is that you are trying to back away from that attack on your task field. You need to drop your ego, brah. If that attack works, you're like, oh God, I'm too egotistical. Right? So if you're attacked egoically, you're going to create distance from yourself. And you're going to pretend like it doesn't bother you. You're creating distance. You'll say something back. You'll do whatever it takes. It's necessary for you to push distance between yourself. That's all racism is. Racism is, what is the most obvious difference that I can find between me and you, so I can accent that right now, so I can chronically feel distance between me and you because I have a fucking hole in my cockpit and I don't have the tools or the language to fix it because I'm in Dojo Earth and I only have a yellow belt. That's what racism, that's what American racism is. It's a myth. It's a mythos. And if it wasn't a myth, Jussie Smollett would not be faking a lynching, would he? If it wasn't a myth, the head of the NAACP would not be a white girl pretending to be a black girl. If it wasn't a myth, Nathan Bedford Forrest, the Confederate general, would not have been invited to speak at the annual NAACP conference outside of Memphis, Tennessee, in the fairgrounds. For clarification, because some of you racist fucks, it wasn't called the NAACP on that day, all right? They changed their name a few decades later. Same organization. If American racism was real, they wouldn't have had to invent that the Civil War was fought for slavery. They wouldn't have to try and push that shit. That 2% of the population was being wronged for their lack of slaves, so 98% of them decide to pick up arms and defend them, despite the fact that 92% of them were illiterate and could not even read the rules that apparently the state had decided was a unanimous decision by all the other citizens. You do realize that during the time of the Civil War, half the people that lived in the land, if not more, did not even know what a state was. I am not shitting you guys. I am not kidding. They did not even know that they lived in a state. That's why where I live, in the Highlands, that's why we have Scottish Highland Games here every year. Because this wasn't founded by Columbus, this area. This area was founded by Scottish Highland dudes. Came much before that. They've been here a while. There's legends in the Cherokee about these weird bagpipe dudes living in the Quartz Mountains. Those guys are intense. We respect them. That's basically the gist of it. They weren't settlers. They weren't pilgrims. They weren't Mason-Dixon line Confederates going, hey man, that 1% dude said you won't let him have slaves. I'm going to kill you. You have to divide a country in half, and then in half, and then in half, and then in half. And that's what Mason-Dixon line is. And when people put up with dissonance over and over again, they have to build distance between themselves energetically. And the way they do that is they look at what's different. Well, you're a girl. That's what a little boy would do, right? What do you know? You're a girl. It's not racism. That's not sexism. That's a form of self-soothing. And frankly, that's what we do if we see someone and we can't think of anything else except for something as obvious as the amount of melanin in their skin. Well, what do you know? Look at all the melanin you have in your skin. That's self-soothing. It's just saying, I'm different than you, therefore you would not understand me. It couldn't be easier. Ducks do it. Ducks are racist as fuck. Because when they get up in each other's grill, they start calling each other names. That's how they get distance. They're like, back the fuck up, dude. Back up. Back up. My chipmunks do it. You hear them every day. One chipmunk's calling the other chipmunk. You're a freaking racist fuck. You're so racist, man. That's what you have to do to survive in this world. You have to create distance between yourself sometimes. Until you get your energy body strong enough where no matter what they hit you with, it feels like a ping pong ball, right? Just bouncing off the top. This could not be easier. But there's going to be these oases for a while. Because people need them. They need them to feed. Their camels must drink from the water of aperture. Right? You guys have a wonderful weekend. Marty Leeds and I are talking on Sunday. I think you should tune into that. I'm going to get Benjamin back. Benjamin, if you're still here, thank you, buddy. I really appreciate it. As I'm seeing that, he's typed, ducks are rapey. Benjamin confirms ducks are rapey. We'll fix that, guys. I'm sorry about Benjamin. In fact, if Benjamin's free tomorrow, man, I would love to do this tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. We'll see what happens, all right? You guys, thanks. Have a great day. Enjoy your Friday. We worship narrative by listening. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. I'm not saying you worship me, but I do want to recognize that you've sacrificed 1 hour and 15 minutes, at least impartial of your attention. Depends on what you're doing. You could be multitasking, but you've still given me a little bit of your plasma, and I thank you for that. It means a lot. See you next